right now.
Sapna. Hello, Sapna. She's talking, but we don't hear her.
Sapna, you're not audible.
Okay. The
Until
pink.
let's begin.
This is the pink lady.
So we can start.
Yes, please begin.
Can we start?
Of course.
Okay. So let's go, Mathilde.
So, good afternoon, everyone. I'm Mathilde, one of the program coordinators on behalf of AADI. And I would like to extend a very warm welcome to all of you. We at AADI believe that a cultural exchange program will remain incomplete without a truly immersive and holistic understanding of the chosen field of research and study. And that is for this reason that we decided to organize this workshop. And so there will be the students of our program who will be joining us for this engaging discussion. And I would like to begin this engaging dialogue today with a quote by Maya Angelou. Each time a woman stands up for herself without knowing it, possibly without claiming it, she stands up for all women. And I will now request Mr. Jean-Claude Breton, the president of AADI, to say a few words on this occasion.
Okay, very brief words. I mean, organizing this meeting today is particularly dear to me because AADI, since its creation, has been promoting mutual understanding and cooperation between France and contemporary India. But the recent AADI Cultural Incubator has been designed by youth, for youth of both countries, which is quite peculiar and the specificity of this program. My duty, in a way, is to contribute to it using my long-lasting experience in and with India. So I personally admire the guest personality of today's meeting, whom I first visited such a long time back, before 2000, if I'm not wrong, in Darpana Academy in Ahmedabad. Before several years before even we were thinking of AADI. AADI was still not born at all. I was a little bit nervous and shy because of the reputation of the guest, but as you will see, she knows how to make you feel comfortable. Thereafter, we met several times, both in Ahmedabad and Paris, and sometimes we were dreaming of inviting her to our festival in Morlaix. So we could not do it so far, maybe sometime in the future. She has a deep experience and knowledge of the French culture and the French language as well. And her notorious experience of dance, choreography, artistic expertise, together with engaging in social and political activism, has been remarkable and very courageous, although it has been often facing tough circumstances, as you may know. Many issues today, like freedom of expression and feminism, which we are talking about, and she has been involved in this a lot of time, are still a reality. So now time is coming to pass the torch to the younger generation. And I now let the young AADI team and the participants to go ahead with the meeting. Thank you, Mallika.
So I will now let Nandini take over from our awaited panel discussion.
Thank you, Mathilde. Thank you, Jean-Claude. Mallika, ma'am, we extend a very warm welcome to you. Khushi, please go ahead with the question.
So my first question to you today is,
girls today are being given strong messages on empowerment and women power, but they still have to live in a patriarchal society. So how do you think young people can deal with the dichotomy of this message? And what are your thoughts on the topic?
It's always been like that, and we've always had to take steps. Tell me something. I'm going to ask you a question. Is this an issue that you discuss with both boys and girls your age? Is this an issue that you discuss with a brother, if there is a brother? Or is this an issue that you just keep within yourself? Tell me that.
So I think I guess previously I would have to say that it was limited to only me, but I guess the people I've worked with have inspired me to take it forward and have these conversations, these tough conversations with young people like my brother, a younger brother that is like 3 years younger than me. He doesn't know much, but I'm sure he knows that it's important to respect women and that gender equality is not a joke. And I think I've tried to have these conversations in my own family, but I feel like that is a privilege because I'm allowed to have these conversations with my family, and I can without being discriminated against or yelled at, for example. So I feel like that is a privilege over here that I would like to acknowledge. But it has been great having these conversations with young people, young boys, young girls, everyone.
But I speak to a lot of children, young people, young adults, older than you, the same age as you, younger than you. And what I try to say to them is that if you are concerned about this issue, and you should be, whether you're a boy or a girl, then try and open conversations with people your age and adults around you before a flashpoint comes. And in a young person's life, what is the flashpoint? The flashpoint for a girl is usually you are of marriageable age. So if you are concerned about this, start conversations around the dinner table, or when you're with a parent, or when you're with a sibling, and start talking about why they think this is right. Do they genuinely believe that women are so weak that they need to be traded, given away, taken, sold off with a dowry, bought with so-and-so? This is a conversation that usually does not happen in our society. Oh, I do this because that's how it is. But there are so many things that's how it was and that are completely wrong for today's time and perhaps for that time. But we can begin. I mean, the whole concept of human rights and equality is a relatively new one in the history of humanity. But it is something that is accepted everywhere today. So these are concepts of protecting a girl, of protecting her body, of protecting her honor. And we need to question these. But we need to question them at a time when it hasn't come to a point when everybody is pressurizing your parents or everybody is pressurizing the family. You are now 21 years old and oh my God, she's going to be left on a shelf. You need to start these conversations early, and you need to start them as normal conversations, not as, listen, I want you to sit down because I want to discuss this. Start it casually. Start by saying, Mama, do you really think my brother and I need to be treated differently? Why do you treat us differently? Do you not trust me? Do you not trust the upbringing you've given me? Don't you think you've given me both the values and the capability of taking decisions and looking after myself? And so on and so forth. This is something that needs to go over a longer period with your family. But start it off very casually. Start it off saying, Ma, do you sometimes wish that you and Papa would take decisions together? Or do you wish that you had had a career if she doesn't? Or do you wish that your mama would have talked to you about something like this? Or that you could be in a society where you didn't have to constantly worry about whether somebody's looking at you in a dirty manner or whether somebody's talking about you in a dirty manner. Go up to friends in college, in school, wherever you are, and talk to the boys. Ask them what pleasure it gives them to call you a cunt or to call you a whore or to discuss somebody, ask them if they are fine if their mother was discussed like that, or if their sister was, because everybody is somebody's sister or somebody's daughter or somebody's mother. You know, I have found that when you actually talk to boys without being heated, without being angry, without being emotional, just like a casual conversation, it's not at all casual for you, they realize what they are doing. In most cases, it is so much a part of the social upbringing of male children that they don't even know how obnoxious they are being. If you make them realize, if you say, for instance, that, you know, every time you passed, a group of girls would be looking at your crotch, how would you feel? It suddenly makes them realize how uncomfortable it is. We had this project that we did in a school with the 12th standard boys and girls, and we were talking about violence, and each time that they felt they were being violent towards somebody or somebody was being violent towards them, they were supposed to note it down, and the next morning they all came with their diaries, and what the girls felt was that the way the boys looked at them, the way the boys whistled at them, the way the boys sang some dirty song under their breath is what horrified them the most. And the boys said, but we are doing it because we admire you. And they didn't realize how intruded we feel and how violated we feel. And I feel that talking to guys, talking to fathers as well, is a way of getting them on a table on which they never imagined the table existed. And my suggestion to all of you is to start those conversations every time a crude joke is cracked, every time a mother-in-law joke is cracked, every time there is a cartoon that is sexist. Very casually say, what is funny about that? Explain it to me, and then defragment their thought and take it to the root which is obnoxious to us. And I find that you will win at least 60 or 70% of men to your side of thinking in this way. There will be the 30% that's obnoxious, but at least you've got the rest with you.
Thank you, ma'am, for that really hard-hitting and eye-opening insight. It really helped us understand a lot of things.
Try it and let me know how it works.
Definitely.
For sure, for sure.
Nandini, do you want to go ahead and take over?
Yeah. So, ma'am, what is the importance of freedom of expression in the field of arts and culture?
You know, I meet a lot of people who say to me, forget arts and culture for the moment. I meet a lot of people who say to me, oh, you know, I'm not going out there to protest about this. I don't get involved in politics. And yet, in today's world, there is not a single thing that you do or a choice that you make that is not political. If, for instance, I decide to go vegan, that is a hugely political decision. If I say I will use an electric car, that is a hugely political decision. If I say that I will not buy products by X or Y company because they exploit the earth and they're destroying the environment, that is a political conversation. You don't have to go out and picket somebody to be political. Freedom of speech is something that the Constitution gives us to be able to voice our opinion as citizens of a country. If you look at India, the interesting thing is that the same people who are just now saying, oh, we are upholding Hindutva, they have never read the Vedanta, they have never read the Upanishads. Because the Vedanta and the Upanishads and most of our Hindu literature is made up of disagreements. People saying something, others disagreeing, debating, coming to a consensus or not coming to a consensus and saying, okay, we agree to disagree. Fine, your view is as valid as mine, mine is as valid as yours. Yours is not superior, mine is not inferior, mine is not superior, mine is not inferior. So Hinduism or Sanatan Dharma is based on debate and freedom of speech and freedom of thought. Today, there is very little freedom of speech or thought in India. The police comes after you, you have cases filed against you, cartoonists go to jail, people who have said nothing go to jail, and it's a terrifying state in our country today. Freedom of expression is something that has been taken away, or people are so afraid that they've given it up. Artists are just a reflection of society. Jean-Claude was saying how much I have had to, and my institution has had to bear, because we chose the path of speaking what we felt was right, of speaking for people who didn't have a voice. It's a difficult choice, but it's something that we have to fight for, to push back the people who are either frightening us so much that we self-censor, or are buying us up so that we censor, or are putting us in jail and threatening us so that we shut up. It's something that is as important to you as somebody who looks at perhaps India or the world for the next 40 or 50 years. It's as important for me at my age, because I have a voice and I'm not afraid. As an artist, I have found that my arts, my performance are an amazingly communicative medium to bring these thoughts forward, and that is why I use them. But most artists have to depend on somebody's grant, somebody's goodness, somebody's thing, and then it's difficult to be honest and open and free.
I agree with you, ma'am. It's definitely a path less taken, as we would say, les sentiers battus, if anyone can relate to this. Yeah. Maintenant, je laisse la parole à Oceane.
Can you hear us?
Oui, je suis là. Donc, de nos jours, les médias sont accusés d'être manipulés ou achetés par le gouvernement, ou de rapporter des informations principalement en faveur de ce même gouvernement. Quel est votre point de vue dessus?
Of course, most of the media is bought. Est-ce que tu préfères que je parle en français?
Oui.
Non, non, c'est bon. Vous pouvez parler en anglais si vous préférez.
C'est d'accord pour toi?
Oui, c'est comme vous voulez. Très bien.
Moi, je suis confortable dans les deux. Do the Indians speak French?
Yes, ma'am, they do. Si vous continuez en français.
D'accord.
Oui.
Aujourd'hui, dans beaucoup de pays, il y a des gouvernements ou des têtes de gouvernement qui sont presque fascistes. Et dans un environnement comme ça, où les choses de démocratie sont diminuées, c'est en question de qui a l'argent d'acheter qui. En Inde, par exemple, presque tous les journaux et les télévisions, les stations de télévision dépendent sur les advertisements de gouvernement qui dépensent beaucoup d'argent sur se glorifier. Et il y a seulement quelques stations nouvelles sur l'Internet et peut-être un ou deux journaux qui ont le courage et la poche de retenir une voix qui est démocratique. Il y a aussi dans un pays comme l'Inde le peur d'avoir le police et le income tax et tout ça pour tromper sur la tête et pour fermer l'établissement. Il y a 2 semaines où un grand journal, un groupe de journaux en hindi était frappé avec beaucoup de cas dans le cours parce qu'ils ont maintenu une conversation qui était critiquable de notre gouvernement. Et aujourd'hui, le gouvernement a la puissance de faire tout ce qu'ils veulent parce qu'ils ont une majorité si énorme dans le Parlement qui l'opposition ne sont pas permis de parler ou de faire des débats qui ont la base d'une démocratie. Alors, c'est un oligarchie qui maintenant a acheté tous les journaux, et c'est comme une oligarchie parce que les journaux ne sont plus indépendantes. Il y a des groupes of media, the media groups, et ils sont sur le côté du gouvernement et ils disent rien, ils sont des voix du gouvernement.
Vous avez tout à fait raison. Merci de partager avec nous votre point de vue. Chaharika, can you please continue?
I will give you one example.
Sure.
There is a amazing independent news portal called The Wire. And because The Wire is independent, the publisher, the editor, and most of the staff have been sued so many times that they have something like $200 million worth of suits pending on them. And they go from city to city because the detractors are very clever. They do one in Bhopal, one case in Jalandhar, one case in Chennai, one in Madurai. And so these people spend lots of money just flying from one to another to make an appearance. The minute they don't make an appearance, they are told back in contempt of court. So the idea is to harass you so much that you shut up. Luckily, we still have journalists mostly on the net, individuals who are doing video shows, who are doing internet shows and print magazines on the net who are fighting this tooth and nail.
It's so amazing that you mentioned The Wire, because the question that I had for you was also after watching your interview, I think, with Mithali Mukherjee.
Yes.
And you were talking about how little support there is by the government for the performing arts industry in general. So my question for you is, do you think that, first of all, why do you think there is such little support by the government, especially the current one that we have, for the performing arts industry? And do you think that disproportionately affects women?
At the best of times, even when Pandit Nehru set up the Ministry of Culture, the relative proportion of money that went to culture was insignificant at best. But what the Ministry of Culture did do in the early years after independence is that it recognized some of the institutions of high caliber and put them in a category where the government could support somewhat those institutions, but somewhat. Darpana was one of them from the beginning. Our government or any government is only as good as the person sitting in the chair taking the decision. So over the years, with every kind of corruption increasing, corruption of the mind, corruption of the soul, corruption of money, artists also started playing this. And more artists started moving to Delhi if they could. Why? Not because Delhi was any cultural capital, because in Delhi they could play the ministers, they could play the secretaries, they could play the embassies, they could be seen all the time, and they could basically become their own lobbies and their own lobbyists. So over the years, if you had a good secretary of culture, he selected obscure groups if they were really good. If you had a morally corrupt secretary, he would choose 2 or 3 or 4 artists repeatedly to support because, forgive my expression, because they dropped their pallus. This particular ministry I have seen in Gujarat for many years, too many, has never been interested in art or culture for the sake of art or culture or for the sake of the amazing diversity that we have. ICCR, the Indian Council for Cultural Relations, for the last 7 years, has debarred all of us who don't toe the line. The Ministry of Culture which used to give us a tiny, tiny grant. So I'll give you an example. Till 5 years ago, till 10 years ago, the Ministry of Culture used to consider the correct salary for an artist at 3,000 rupees a month. So they would give you, for all your artists, 3,000 rupees, and for the guru, I think 1,500 more. This is when we were paying artists 25,000, 30,000. So even at the best, it was a tiny proportion, but it was a proportion that we depended on. Since this government came into power, it's all disappeared. We fill in these forms every year. They put it on a website, and for the next year, it says being processed. Today, the only artists who are getting any kind of help or support are people who follow the Hindutva agenda. So anybody who is doing anything different, not only are they not supported, but people who want to present them get a phone call or a nudge from the ministry to say, if you want your licenses, you will not touch this artist. This is what we are undergoing, if not worse.
Wow, I think that has been very interesting, and at the same time, it has made us all think. We're all processing this information, so we're really grateful to you. Mathilde, do you want to ask the next question?
Sorry, my mic
was mute.
Yeah. So I will ask the question in French. En France, l'humour satirique fait partie de la tradition. Est-ce que vous pensez que l'humour satirique peut être offensant?
You know, I loved your question because from Charlie Hebdo onwards, I have been following what has been happening. You know, from the time of the Crusades, human beings have had the arrogance to think they need to protect their gods and goddesses. If we think that we need to protect gods and goddesses, we think we are stronger than them, in which case, why do we pray to them? So there is a basic issue there. Today, when people killed and bombed the office of Charlie Hebdo, when the drawings of Muhammad came up, we have become, we take ourselves so seriously and we take our religion so seriously and become so fragmented that anything is seen as an insult. If you ask me, I am a Hindu by birth. I am somebody who doesn't ever go to a temple, but I do believe in a force like nature that is larger than us. So if, for instance, somebody were to put a picture of one of the Hindu gods on a pair of slippers, which happened recently in America, I would laugh at it. I would say they are stupid and it's bad taste. But I wouldn't think that either my faith or the capability of whatever gods or goddesses or superior power that I believe in is so small that that can destroy me. Satire works on the principle that people are secure in what they feel. Satire used to be a very important part of Indian literature, Indian theater, Indian performance. But we seem to have lost it as a nation. We seem to not be able to take a joke at ourselves at all. We are a humorless nation today. Yes, I think when you allow satire, it is up to the satirist to understand what is poking fun and what is downright hurtful. I think it's up to the satirist, not up to the receiver, but up to the satirist to say this could hurt somebody who is vulnerable and perhaps I shouldn't go that far. Or that in a world where there are so many terrorist organizations feeling so insecure that they want to go and shoot people, that perhaps we need to impose a limit. I'm not saying that's correct, but that's the world we live in today. We live in a frightening world. In an ideal world, satire can either be laughed at or shrugged off. But that we are very, very far from an ideal world. So we all need to find a sense of humor, a sense of satire again, but I'm afraid it's going to be a long journey.
I do hope we take it for sure. So Marie, do you want to ask the next question?
What do you think about press freedom in India?
I think I just answered that when I talked about the kind of censorship. You see, the government controls the media because they spend so much money in advertising, especially this government where you have full page ads in every newspaper every day. Newspapers are no longer run by journalists or people understand who are interested in neutral news. They are run by business conglomerates just the same as they run the coal mines or they run steel factories. It's just another business. And if you're only worried about the profit line, then you are not going to do anything that upsets your biggest client and your biggest money-making advertiser. That's where press freedom is. The freedom is only to earn money, not to report the news. Look at what television is doing. Look at what Arnab Goswami is doing. He doesn't allow anybody to talk. He just shouts and shouts and shouts. I stopped going to Arnab's programs about 5-7 years ago when it became impossible. He is not inviting you onto his shows. Odd times now, they are not inviting you on your shows to listen to what you have to say. They are only bringing you there to humiliate you. I would only go somewhere if they genuinely wanted to hear diverse opinions. There is so much harassment of free press and free thought in this country today that I can very easily say that freedom of the press is a dangerous activity in India.
That is a very interesting perspective that you have, and I'm sure a lot of us agree with you. So our last question for the day, Rucha, do you want to go ahead and ask it?
Yeah, hello. So our project focuses on the representation of women in Bollywood. So we wanted to know your views on this topic. So do you think the women in Bollywood how do you think they're treated today? And do you think we're making any progress in representing women better?
Okay, let me tell you a story. I was 15 years old when I was offered a role in a Hindi film. It was an alternative film. It never got released. It was heartbreaking. And my next 3 films are all alternative films talking of feminism with very strong women characters. And they never got released. So this was when I was still in college. I wanted to quit the industry, but I had friends in the industry, alternate writers, who said to me, no, you have to try one commercial film. You can't just leave. So I signed up a film called Hera Fairy with Amitabh Bachchan, Vinod Khanna, Zeenat Aman and me. And I was being paired with Vinod Khanna and Zeenat with Amitabh. And I was all of 17 and a half. We started the shooting with a song sequence between Vinod and me on a partially built skyscraper in Bandra. We were on the top floor. There was this big fat man sitting like this who was supposed to be the dance director. And we were doing this song and he kept on saying, no, 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 that's not good, repeat it. No, 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 that's not good, repeat it, for a line of mine. So after about 10 takes, I went to him and I said, I don't understand. I'm getting it line perfect. I'm getting it the tal perfect. I'm doing the moves. What's your issue? So he said, move your tits, madam. I picked up the chair that was next to him. I broke it on his head and I quit the industry. Okay, that hasn't changed so much. But over the last 5 years, there are more women directors. There are more sensitive men directors who are given women positions where they are the proactive member. And you know, there is this wonderful Swedish measurement of measuring, I've forgotten what it's called, but it's a measure of how many times in a film a woman character speaks, of how many times she has a name, of how many times she speaks other than about the love interest in her film. And in all but a handful of Indian movies, and I'm not only talking of Bollywood, I'm talking of a lot of very feminist Malayalam films, it's a complete failure. We score less than 5 on a 100 scale, but it's changing. And that's what is exciting me. Indie films are being directed with a much greater scope, and it's not only women, it's minorities taking the lead, it's Dalits taking the lead roles. And I think we are about to witness a huge change. And the fact that we've all gone on to OTT platforms is a huge fillip, because you don't have to depend on a very patriarchal, very sexist distributors network. So I'm very hopeful.
That's
Wow.
nice to know.
That is very exciting. I did not know this, and I was researching. I was looking up your profile and everything, because I was like, oh my god. So wow, thank you for saying that. I think that is extremely bold of you. That this is a step a lot of women would not have taken, and they would have sort of endured that sort of mistreatment. And I honestly, I'm so inspired. Matthew, do you want to take over?
Okay, so does anyone have any question, or can we conclude on this? So thank you.
Jean-Claude has my email ID. You are most welcome to email me. I answer every single email myself.
Yes, I would have one last question. Will there be any movies that you would like to recommend to us that we must watch, where you thought that, the women have a very great role to play? And
okay, something that's
close to your heart.
Can I send you a list? Can I send Jean-Claude a list?
Yes, definitely.
Because there are some extraordinary movies in languages as well, but they're all subtitled and they're very, very worth watching.
Definitely.
Okay, so I'm going to send you a list.
Okay.
Thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Lovely talking to all of you. Thank you for being there, and go and shake the world up.
Okay, you can trust. Okay. I'm sure we will not forget this short meeting. Thank you very much. Merci mille fois.
Je vous en prie. Au revoir et bientôt.
À bientôt en Bretagne.
Yeah. Okay.
Thank you so much.
All of you.
Okay, I think I should end. Bye, guys.